Test. Test. Check mic.
Yeah. Good.
Where do you want to put it?
It's good now. Yeah. It's pretty loud.
You want the wire showing like that? Are you okay with the wire showing like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Salam alaikum. Salam. Okay. Okay. Yes, okay. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining the session. So, my name is Hazem El Zayed. I am Chief Experience Officer at Ogilvy. We are proud partners of QRDI, the QRDI Council. I'm here today to talk about data-driven experiences, brand experiences that convert multiple different names to the same thing. The session on the schedule is called slightly differently, but they're all leading to the same things at the end of the day. So we're going to start off with an initial question that sort of is becoming more and more important over time. And the question basically is, are brands achieving the full potential of the customer relationship? So typically, we've been thinking about customer relationships in the typical definition of customer relationship management. We're going to talk a little bit more about how management has shifted to something else. We'll get to that in a minute. But this is the real question. Are we as brands achieving the full potential of the customer relationship? Do we really deliver the best experience that customers can get? Are our customers benefiting from that experience and from that relationship the way they could? And that's a question that was brought into focus significantly over the last few years, particularly during the global shutdown, because a number of things have changed and continue to be changing since the global market shutdown. So it brought about a 7 to 10 year leap in digital transformation. So multiple brands that were never online, multiple industries that never thought about how could they sell online were rushing into, what am I going to do? Think of the automotive market. Now, we work with a lot of automotives at Ogilvy. Showrooms shut down, how are we going to sell cars? That was a repetitive question that we were getting. The pandemic also drove a 70% increase in digital interactions. So up from 20% in 2019 and at about 70% in 2023, and certainly growing more and more and more. And we all know that, right? I mean, we're all sort of at our phones all day, tapping, 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 etc., etc. And last but not least, direct engagement is becoming more and more important. Now, there's a massive question out there. I don't know the answer to it anymore. I don't think anybody really knows the answer to it anymore because they keep playing us. The Googles of the world are playing us. But direct engagement is becoming very important. So why am I saying the Googles of the world are playing us? Is because third-party cookies disappearing, staying, disappearing, staying. This has been a bit of a seesaw. But the net result is we've got to have that direct one-to-one consumer engagement, right? This is important. Delivery of content across mobile devices, delivery of content at people's time, at their own pace. That sort of stuff is becoming very important from a direct engagement perspective. And why is all of this happening? Is because effectively the speed of consumers is changing. Now, the days where brands dictated customer journeys don't really exist anymore, right? This idea of, you know, there's a very fixed funnel, there's a first stage of the journey, then you go from stage 1 to stage 2 of, you know, you've been exposed to that message, now let's tell you this piece of information and that piece of information and so on. That linear journey doesn't really exist anymore. Customers want to access content and access information, access your brand and product on their terms, basically, is the short version of it. Especially with AI, technology has obviously shifted the playing field. Consumers are way more in control. And we're going to see a really good example of being in control in a minute. And lastly, customers have become, or consumers have become a lot more digitally comfortable. Think of your own children. If you've got children, I've got a 12-year-old son. When he turned 4 or 5, whatever it is, when first got his first iPad or started playing with an iPad, you know, that was very intuitive, this whole touching and playing with stuff on the iPad, versus when I got my first iPad when I was probably 29, I was like, what on earth is this thing and how do I use it? So this whole technology shift is becoming very easy for a younger generation and for everybody, even if they hadn't engaged with technology before. So the short version of it is customers are now really fully in control. And here's a good example of how that actually happens. Sorry. Can we get audio on the slides? I don't know who I'm talking to, but can somebody get audio on the slides? Let me try again. No. The audio here. Nope. Can we get the audio from here though? Yeah? Sorry about that. I was just talking to you about technology not necessarily always working right in presentations. This is where I have to try and humor the crowd, right? So we need to say jokes and say, do something fun with the crowd and stuff like that, you know, jumping jacks and stuff like that.
Next sale is a digital treasure trove charming Ellie's private data.
What?
Lot number 1, her emails. The one she's opened and read, wonderfully personal. Let's start at 240, 260, 280. Sold. Lot number 2, Ellie's drugstore purchases. Voila! Priceless data. Do I hear 480? 500. Sold. Her location data. It's not creepy, it's commerce. Do I hear 600? 620? 640? So,
Nana?
All her contracts, even sweet Nana. Sold at 7:40. Receipts and statements. Her browsing history. Her late-night texting habits. Sold. And now the one you've all been waiting for, and I can promise you won't be disappointed.
So beautifully brought to us by Apple. Ironically, obviously, I don't want them to hide data from me because this is how I make money on my job. But the gist is there, right? I mean, customers are in control. They can hide their data if they want to hide their data. The trick here is how do we get them to actually willingly give us data, right? So we're talking about what we like to call the value exchange. You know, what's in it for consumers to actually want to give us data? And there's enough research that suggests that consumers are okay to give data as long as you justify and make it clear how you're going to use the data, how you're going to store the data, how you're going to process the data, you know, all that sort of stuff. Right, so what has all of this resulted in? It's resulted in $500 billion investment in marketing technology over the last 5 years. And I think the venue we're here in is probably a very good example of that being brought to life. $500 billion being invested. That's a lot of money being put into marketing technology. So the likes of Adobe, Salesforce, Sitecore, Microsoft's, Google's, et cetera, are making really good money on the back of the changes that have been happening. The question is, where has this taken us, or what has that resulted in? And sadly, there's a bit of differentiation and relevancy deficit, right? So there's a lot of stuff that looks very similar, a lot of experiences that don't deliver. Yes, we've got the technology, but are we really making the right good use of it? And again, here's another example brought to life by our good friends at Adobe.
Target's been neutralized. I'm heading to the hotel. Checking into the penthouse. The name's Hunter.
Certainly, Mr. Hunter. I have your reservation right here.
Wait, did you say Hunter?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't have a Hunter.
But you emailed the confirmation to my watch.
Well, marketing handles emails. Oh, I have a Hanson.
No, it's Hunter.
Hunter.
I picked my room on your app.
Oh, we have so many apps.
And I'm a platinum member. I even have a promotion from your website.
Promotions are on a different system, but I do have a single on the ground floor, Mr. Hanson.
It's Hunter. My name is Hunter.
So, sound a bit familiar? I mean, we've all been there. We've all seen similar examples, right? So, this is the problem, right? There, you know, investments being made. Are the experiences really sort of making the right value out of the investments, and are brands seeing the right return on these investments, and so on? So, there we go. Oops, sorry. Back one more time. Okay. The reality is, again, then there's enough data to demonstrate that as 71% of consumers expect a much more personal experience from brands that they interact with, and 76% are very frustrated when they don't feel like that's actually coming to play. Brands don't recognize them. Brands are not delivering content that's relevant to them. Again, we've all been there, right? I get an email from, I'm going to pick on banks a bit, not because my friend Hussein is here, but also because it just happens to be a common industry, and there's a couple of banks here. I don't bank with his bank, so he's all right. But I got an email from my bank. I live in Dubai. I got an email from my bank that said, we've just got into, no names mentioned, but we've just gotten into a wonderful partnership with Volkswagen. You could avail a very special rate on a Volkswagen car loan, you know, apply now. And then about a week later, I got exactly the same email from exactly the same bank in exactly the same design, but they removed the Volkswagen brand and they put the Bentley brand. And I was like, can you guys not figure out if I'm the Volkswagen customer or the Bentley customer? Sadly, I'm not the Bentley customer, unfortunately, not in this industry, but the point is made, right? I mean, you've got to figure out, you've got to at least know, based on my income, can I afford a Bentley or can I afford a Volkswagen, and send me an email accordingly. So there's a lot of that going on, from that simplistic in one email to, you know, the much more complicated versions of that. And the challenge is that certain brands have already set our expectations that experiences should be so much better and so much simpler, right? So the Ubers of the world have set the expectation that an experience could be super duper simple. Spotify has set the experience that my music can discover me and not the other way around. Amazon obviously has done the whole thing around personalization and telling us what we want before we even know that we want it. Netflix has set the expectation that entertainment is at my time, my place, my device, and so on and so forth, and there's so many out there. And then somebody's going to go like, okay, but hang on, why are we comparing to these in particular? Well, we're comparing to these not only because they're successful and because they're digital first and because they do the right thing, and you know, these are all the given reasons, but there's a very important reason, which is the reason that this fine lady here says is the last best experience that anyone has anywhere becomes the minimum expectation for the experiences they want everywhere. Now, what does that mean? That simply means if I today bank with Bank X and whatever experience I get from them, I don't compare Bank X to just Bank Y. What I actually compare is Bank X to the experience I get from a really good brand that might be out of category. So I might be comparing my bank to my airline. I might be comparing my bank to my gym. I might be comparing my bank to my online shopping, you know, whatever it may be. There's a BCG study that actually asked that particular question to consumers. How do you want your banks to behave? And the answers were pretty phenomenal. People were comparing banks to dentists, gyms, personal shoppers, nothing to do with banking whatsoever, but that's the experience that they want the bank to actually give them. And that's why this becomes very, very important, and that sort of benchmarking becomes very important. So we really genuinely believe it's time to address the shift and start managing expectations way better, right? Again, because this is becoming an expectation from a customer perspective. And when we say the shift, let's just explore quickly what we mean by the shift. So we're shifting from customers who are digitally savvy to much more digitally native, from the notion of I'll find you, I'm customer and I'm going to find the brand, to the brand really needs to find me. From time and triggered communications to much more liquid and dynamic communications, from being informed online to being informed by influencers, from static segments to what we call dynamic cohorts, and from linear journeys, sort of one size fits all, straight lines, etc., to what we call connected ecosystems. And we'll explore connected ecosystems in a second. And again, the reality is there's a massive growth dividend and a growth opportunity. So leaders in customer relationships or leaders in customer experiences certainly outperform competitors and generate way more measurable ROI and growth. And the best companies that do gain an edge by going beyond traditional methods, and there's enough basically for them to really recognize that they need to keep up with the speed of consumers. There's again enough data that suggests that brands that deliver to this sort of strategies and to that sort of thinking grow revenue by 2.5 times and grow profit by 200%. There's so much data out there to demonstrate that, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples in a minute. So I've been saying we do this, who are we, and so on. So just very quickly, by way of doing a bit of an introduction to the Ogilvy business and the Ogilvy business that I run, this is who we are and this is how we sort of tell the story.
3, 2, 1. We live in a world of infinities, endless data, a multitude of choices, countless human stories, her one, his one, their one, tangled, beautiful and unique. But in this sea of possibilities, brands can be swapped. Every customer, every story, every dream must be catered for, on their terms, when they want, where they want. So if there's one thing we could all agree on, it's that one-to-one has never been more important. But it can't be off the shelf, and one-size-fits-all never really fit at all. So it's time to build a new kind of relationship. A human-centric one, a wildly intelligent one, a truly valuable one. One that's one-to-one and designed to end. An eye-to-eye one, a heart-to-heart one, a hand-in-hand one. One led by creativity, powered by data, supercharged by AI, and built for an audience of one. We live in a world of one. We are Ogilvy. Ogilvy One.
So Ogilvy One is the part of the business that I run at Ogilvy, and again, just to address this. So what do we really mean by this, and about addressing the shift? So we talk to what we like to call relationship design, and this is about moving on from managing customers to designing relationships. And I'll come to that again in a second, but again, one more video to illustrate this.
Designing impactful relationships must uniquely combine magic and machine. Our approach trains 75 years of expertise to truly connect the brand to customer experiences in a way that impacts for real-world business growth. Relationship design is our proprietary fluid way of working, utilizing creativity to connect business needs and brand promises to the customer experience, leveraging technology and data to enable opportunities in the AI era. From deep customer insights and emotional connections to solving unmet needs, through persuasive and impactful creativity at every touch point with precision, and through personalization across all platforms to establish lasting connections. Introducing RD, Ogilvy's unique methodology ingrained in our DNA for modern engagement, experiences, and commerce to unlock opportunities and solve problems for clients and customers.
Right. Why relationship design? Because we simply have to meet today's consumer context and expectations, which basically falls into 4 different areas. Place, where am I? So this is obviously about physical location, but obviously also about device, about network, about different sort of situations that I might be in. Pace is basically my pace. At what point in time do I want to engage with the brand? It's not about the brand, it's about me. Am I ready? Am I not ready? Morning, afternoon, you know, my time, my way, on my terms, basically. Purpose, does it deliver or does it work through to a valuable point of view on, and is it drawing on experiences in my life? So does it really engage with what I'm trying to achieve from the relationship with the brand, or is it just fluff? Let's call it that. And finally, privacy. Does it respect who I am? Is it dealing with my data in the right manner? Is it processing my data the right way, and so on? One more example.
Let's do this. Everybody on the ground. This is a robbery. Don't move. Hey, get down and stay down. Don't move. The money. Open the vault.
Mr. Johnson? Eric Johnson?
How does she know your name? I don't know.
Your mobile app pinged us when you walked in. Looks like you were on our website and thinking about buying a house.
You moving out, man? I need my space.
Eric, you may think you can't afford a new home, but we have some amazing new rates. I could text them to you.
Oh, those are fantastic.
And Mr. Davis?
Yeah, it's me.
Did you click on one of our emails about consolidating your student loans?
Maybe. Tim! What's the matter with you?
Oh, well, we can help you with that too.
Hey, what are you doing? This is a robbery, remember? We gotta go! Come on! Can I lock those rates in on the app?
Well, of course you can, sugar.
Again, brought to us by our friends at Adobe. Don't get me wrong, I work for Ogilvy, not Adobe. I don't make money if my clients buy Adobe, but they just make fantastic content. But that's the idea, right? Again, this is basically based on the specific interactions that somebody's had. He's walked into the bank, he's been on a website, they know all of that, and they're delivering content accordingly, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's online, and so on. So what we're saying here is again all about shifting from managing customers to designing meaningful relationships. And simply because this whole idea of customer relationship management is lending itself to a bit of a dying notion, if that makes sense. Customers don't want to be managed again anymore. They want to feel in control. They want to feel like they are sort of co-designing, let's call it that relationship with the brand. They're telling the brand what they want, the brand is responding, and that relationship is being sort of built on the fly. And that relationship journey, a little bit of an issue with font there, basically starts with acquisition, obviously, right? We all need to acquire new customers, so we become a customer of a brand in some capacity. So you generate a campaign, drive awareness, drive consideration. Eventually you become a customer of the brand. you know, when you're actually converted through commerce or through whatever it is in terms of depending on the industry the brand falls within. Then we nurture that relationship through loyalty and CRM by driving continuous engagements around customer preference, again, one more time. And then over time, we just make them feel more and more special. So this is all about service design and all it comes within from a context of the connected ecosystem, again, that we mentioned briefly. We're going to see a few examples of that brought to life, so in a few case studies or a few good examples. But again, one more time, just to remind you, relationship design, as per the video and as the video said, so works across those 4 elements combined. So the brand and the connected ecosystem from the brand. And again, what do we mean by the connected ecosystem? If we think of the example of the bank here, the connected ecosystem would be the website that he was on. He walked into the branch, she texted him on his phone, he got an email, you know, all that. That's the connected ecosystem. And customers are jumping through hoops and different pace around that connected ecosystem. I start from the website, somebody else starts from the branch, you know, and so on and so forth. The value exchange we talked about already, which is all about that sort of two-way relationship with the brand and what's in it for me to give you my data and so on. The full dimensional consumer is obvious. It's all about understanding the customer, who they are, where they're going to be, what they want to do, and so on, and delivering accordingly. And technology and data is all about the enabler, right? So, and that's why we always sort of say that at the end. Technology is the enabler. Technology is not the driver. I have a lot of conversations with clients who tell me, you know, so what software should we use? What tool should we use? And I go like, let's solve for a problem and then figure out the software, right? Let's find out what problem we're trying to solve for, what's our objective, what's our KPI, and then find technology that actually delivers to it. So here's a few really good examples that really talk to the connected ecosystem across multiple channels, across understanding individual consumers and so on. This is all case studies from Ogilvy, actually.
Emmanuel Macron, le président qui inaugurait ce paquebot, plus gros paquebot d'Europe.
The next one is from Formula One. Any Formula One fans in the room? Yeah, 1 or 2? Okay, great. So Formula One had a challenge. It was becoming a bit more of a B2B business, really. It was becoming all about the deals that are being struck between teams and brands and so on, and the fans were sort of losing out. We started to change that through, again, understanding brands, understanding their interests, their habits, what motivates them. We had a really cool wake-up call from your favorite driver, Formula One driver, that would actually wake you in time for the race. We had a bunch of different things that we did for Formula One that come to life in this video.
Formula One fans are the lifeblood of the sport, but for decades F1 had been chasing corporate deals and taking its fans for granted. Now it was costing them dearly. We needed to win back the hearts of the fans, so we used email to create a direct relationship, treating every race as if it were an episode in a series, building an epic storyline that stretched across the whole season, with tear-jerking highs,
Hamilton has done it once again.
heart-stopping lows and jaw-dropping cliffhangers.
And it's another big crash. It is Charles Leclerc.
We made every race an unmissable new episode. So, what did the fans think? Yes, they actually tweeted about emails. And the more the fans engaged, the more we learned about them, which allowed us to tailor the story to their personal interests and cross-sell them the things they'd actually be interested in. These emails delivered 114% sales uplift, which meant the average fan spent twice as much on F1 products, while mega fans trebled their spend.
Shut up and take my money.
That's an ROI of 6 to 1. Putting F1 back in pole position and winning back the hearts of our fans.
So not only brand love, but also commerce and sales and so on. The next one is, if I can, yeah, all right. So the next one is Vox Cinemas, Majdov team. This is actually proof of concept. So this is not live work, but we worked with MAF on basically defining the fact that going to the cinema starts when you're at home. On the inspiration of, what's in the movies, is there something interesting for me, how do I get to the cinema, how do I find my parking, how do I find the cinema at the mall, how do I pick up my popcorn, how do I find my seat, etc., etc., etc. So you see how, again, we're trying to build up to the fact that going to the cinema is about parking as well. It's not just about, watching a movie. We actually did a couple of really cool things as well. We did cinema mode, a la flight mode on your phone. So one click and your phone light dims, goes into vibrate, your flash goes on your flashlight goes on for 45 seconds so you can find your seat. Food ordering from your seat, and we did things like, because of the ecosystem, so the cinemas in the mall, we started doing things like, how do we increase dwell time inside the mall to benefit the wider brand? So if you just watched maybe a Marvel movie, the cinema app will also tell you where can you buy Marvel merchandising inside the bank, redeem them for loyalty points from Majdov team. We connected the ecosystem again one more time. Last but not least is one more from our good friends at IKEA. So IKEA, everybody knows IKEA. Everybody here probably has shopped at IKEA at least once. IKEA goes on sale multiple times a year, as we all know. Typically, they do big brand campaigns that basically say, 25 to 70% off, shop online or in store, and then people go and shop. They're in business. What we did for IKEA is we just tried to be a little bit smarter about telling people what's on sale at IKEA, depending on what we know about individual people one more time. No rocket science, to be honest, but lots of fantastic results.
IKEA is one of the world's, and certainly the region's, favorite home furnishing brands. From living room and bedrooms, to accessories and lighting, and fully fitted kitchens. It's safe to assume that almost every household in the UAE is home to at least one of IKEA's thousands of products. Embedded in customers' hearts, IKEA does a fantastic job at reaching customers to drive them to their stores and e-commerce offering, positioning some of their favorite products at preferred rates for IKEA family members, and with generous discounts on multiple occasions throughout the year. Together with IKEA, we asked ourselves if we could make the promotions and offers work harder for the brand and deliver more relevant products to different customer groups and individuals to drive higher sales and increase efficiency of media spend and conversion. Looking at the data in hand, we devised a strategy where we segmented IKEA family customers based on recency, frequency, and their average spend with IKEA, and correlated that to their purchased history together with products that were on sale. That gave us a new route to communicating the next promotion from IKEA, allowing us to send specific products to specific groups based on the correlations we could make according to their spend, what they bought, and when they bought it. And that meant that we are not running a large media-driven campaign, and instead using existing first-party data and contact information to send emails and WhatsApp messages and where needed paid media. The approach was based on a large testing strategy where we started with emails that were A/B tested for content, subject line, time of sending, and other parameters, had an automated follow-up depending on action taken by recipients from non-openers. To openers who clicked, did not click, bought, did not buy, and other factors, re-engaged in WhatsApp if email did not drive a conversion, and finally using paid social media to target specific individuals who did not engage. The campaign was deployed. We crossed our fingers and hoped for the best. And the results were exceptional and beyond our expectations. Using this strategy, we delivered 40% increase in email open rate, 430% increase in email click rates, 230% increase in conversions, and a return on ad spend of almost 123 times. Our test and learn strategy also taught us which channels perform better with specific segments of IKEA customers, and this was fed back into the campaign planning cycle to improve performance and media efficiency.
So I'm just going to leave you with a couple of a quote and a couple of data points just to sort of close this and bring it to an end. Our good friend Franz Riemersma, Franz is one of two co-authors of the State of MarTech report, if this is familiar. So he says, stop implementing software and start implementing customer or business use cases. And this is again very important because it's about, what are we trying to achieve for customers? What are customers wanting from the brand, and how do we deliver that? And this is very important because when again we get asked the question of, what software should I use? What tool should I use? The answer is, in the last edition of the State of MarTech, which is 2024, the updated version is May of 2025, there's 14,106 marketing technology tools out there. So the answer to the question of, which one should I use is I don't know, right? It's really dependent on the business cases or the use cases that you're trying to deliver. So start with strategy, implement with technology. Don't start with technology simply. And last but not least, there's so much to win and nothing to lose because there's so much data, again, that demonstrate that personalization, automation, using data, data-driven comms, all of these names are faces to the same coins, delivers significant uplifts. But there you go. 53% are more likely to purchase when digital communications are personalized. 15 to 20% improvement in ROI is seen when companies put data-driven personalization at the heart of their marketing and sales. And the data points don't end. There's more and more to this. But I'm going to leave you with those. And I think we've got time for questions if there's any. Thank you very, very much.
Hi, could you speak a little bit more about what you were saying about the change from a linear journey of a funnel, a marketing funnel, a sales funnel, they arrive, you have your plan of what you're going to send them, versus kind of a choose your own journey or a personalized journey. How can a company still strategize while at the same time being flexible?
Sure. I think it's a great question. The answer is again on sort of how early on you build up that profiling of your audience, right? So once somebody starts engaging with a brand in any capacity, you're at a point already where you can create a profile for that person, an individual personalized profile for the person, even if it's anonymous at that stage, right? But you know that they're a person, right? And they've done certain things. So they've been triggered by a certain message, they've arrived at a certain channel, they've looked at certain content, so you know something about them. You don't know whether they're male or female, you don't know, you know where they are probably, what device, you know, all that sort of stuff you obviously know. You don't know male, female, you don't know age, you don't know purchase intent, you know, some of these things you don't know. But you already know, I've already mentioned about 10 maybe different data points already, right? So if they bounce, if they leave, they don't convert, they don't take the action that you want them to take, you take them down the next stage of the journey based on that information that you found out, as opposed to a fixed message like you were saying earlier, you know, that's driven by the funnel. That's generated, ideally, that's generated on the fly. Dynamic content and marketing automation platforms is generating that content on the fly and dishing it out to people to react accordingly. Eventually, you're getting to a point where that anonymous user becomes an identified user because he's going to land on your product or your website or what have you and fill a form or buy something or whatever it is. They become identified, so you convert them from anonymous to identified, and then now you know a lot more. He or she has actually bought something from you. You can start selling them the next product and the next product and nurture the relationship and drive loyalty and so on.
Can I ask a question, which is, you said about collecting data about them so that we can personalize.
Mm-hmm.
How does a company decide what kind of data to collect about them? And you also said about customers are usually okay to fill in a form or give data if they know how the data is going to be used. So could you speak a little bit more to that as well?
Sure. So the first one's an interesting one because depending on the brand or depending on the industry, it might become very obvious why the brand is asking for data. Their KYC, they've got to check my credit history, you know, all that sort of stuff. If I was buying property, makes sense. If I was buying a car, it makes sense. We worked on a first-party data strategy for a CPG brand, and they do, you know, chocolates and biscuits and gum and juice and what have you and stuff like that. And when you think about it, in the first instance, why on earth would I give you my data to buy a bar of chocolate? Right? I mean, there's really no good reason, right? Until you have to create that reason for them. So we created a whole first-party data strategy for that brand around how we're going to acquire data, first-party data from customers based on, you know, developing content and developing a platform basically where they wanted to come and engage with because they were getting something in return around content, around the obvious one, recipes, around how to use their products in certain instances, you know, all that sort of stuff. You know, you've got to create the value exchange, which sort of answers your second point, right? So if I tell you, you know, if I introduce you to that platform and you start seeing the value in that platform, but you've got to register or you've got to scan a QR code or, you know, whatever it is that I need you to do, it becomes quite obvious how what I'm going to do with your data or why I'm collecting your data. But there's also another part of it, which is the part that we all skip, right? So how many of us, myself included, how many of us have all, you know, ticked the box and accepted terms and conditions, or these days when you land on a website and it has the cookie message, you know, accept all, reject all, we all click the accept all button. I genuinely don't know what happens if I click reject all, to be honest, right? We're all just doing it. I come from a very strong background of saying it's so much easier if you actually just tell me in layman terms what are you doing, right? You know, I'll take the data and I'll do this with it. Or flip it around. Once you send me a personalized piece of communication, maybe reverse engineer that and tell me you got that because you told us this before or because you've exhibited that behavior before. If you tell us a little bit more, we'll get more and more granular around it and we can give you a better experience. And people like that because there's too much clutter. Right, there's so much that's getting thrown at us every single day from a comms perspective, and I only want the ones that really mean something to me and add value to my life. No worries, thank you. Yes, sir. No. Although I said no, but I was guessing.
You heard me. Thank you, Hazem, for the presentation.
Thank you.
Aziz Luxa from Mangosteen. My question is, data-driven also is another word for tech-driven.
Absolutely.
tech is fast moving, fast changing. So how do companies mitigate the risk of using a technology or relying on technology, and then in 3 years or so it's obsolete, and then you have to look for the next wave and all of that? Can you mitigate that by a strategy that combines a little bit of a very safe, old school, boring channels or not? Or what's your answer?
Sure. So I don't think it's necessarily about the channel. Obviously, at the end of the day, the channels are kind of the same, right? I mean, we've been using email for 30 years or whatever it is. We've been using websites for 40 years or whatever it is, and so on. I think the answer really lies in the long-term strategy. So how has the brand strategized for data-driven comms over time, right? So today you're sitting on a certain amount of data, but you don't have single view of customers, say for example, right? So you're not collating everything that the customer is doing into one particular view, which is what is called today a CDP, or a customer data platform. Instead, you've got maybe just a CRM program, or just your e-commerce data, or whatever it is. So that roadmap of getting from siloed data buckets, or whatever you want to call them, databases or what have you, into a single view of customer is a little bit of future-proofing. You can't obviously future-proof 100%, but again, you've seen on the screen content from Adobe. We're a Gold Adobe partner. We're a Platinum Sitecore partner. We work with Salesforce. We work with SAP. We work with everybody. I come very strongly from the school where I advise my clients not to build custom-built solutions in-house, because they don't have longevity, exactly to your point. They're not plugged into the networks. They're not plugged into Meta. They're not plugged into AI. They're not plugged into TikTok. And if they did, they will invest so much money in that, so much more than if they paid an Adobe or a Salesforce or what have you, who actually have a roadmap for their product evolution over the next 15 years probably. And we get asked that by clients. They want demonstration of the product roadmap and how the product will grow and so on. So it's a bit of hedging bets, if you really want to think about it that way, between what's your own roadmap for data collection, data activation, and what you're going to need to deliver to that, and who's the partner that you're working with, and what view have you got of their roadmap as well. Are you going to fully future-proof it? Absolutely not, but at least you can minimize your risks in some capacity. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.